got this right. Because this is about tourists versus residents, I was imagining the most obtrusive tourist you could possibly get, which is the hen nights that you can at Night Street. And I'm aware of the hen nights because on a Friday evening, I take leftover bread from our local bakeries to the nuns on Sear Street, who run a little homeless shelter, and now one brick separated from hen night central. This sort of whirling vortex of flesh and baubles and sashes. So I'm aware of it, and I know that. So I'm addressing this hen night, and but I'm not going to stay with you on your hen night because that's not the right thing to do. But I'm assuming that the morning after, you're going to want a breath of bracing fresh air. So I'm going to take you northwards to Sefton. And I'm going to show you a city. I'm assuming that on your hen night, you went to all the museums and you saw all the fabulous architecture. I'm assuming that was the agenda for the hen night. But the morning after, I'm going to show you a kind of an invisible city that's not that clear, because this beautiful city is haunted by lost buildings and unimagined buildings that never came to fruition. So the cathedral was supposed to be this enormous, phenomenal, phantasmagorical, insane project by Lutyens, which would have been seen out to sea. During 2008, we were going to have Will Alsop build this cloud. But there are also the buildings that are lost. On Castle Street, there was a castle. When Daniel Defoe came to Liverpool, he said, the thing about Scousers is they're always knocking buildings down. So it's constantly kind of erasing itself. And the most kind of lamented, the most romanticised of all those lost invisible buildings is the overhead railway, which used to run along the side of the docks. And I read a beautiful book by A.J. Lees, who's a neuroscientist, called The Brazil That Never Was, which recounts getting this train that you got at James Street, and you could be on it with people going to Bootle, but you could be on it with people going to Valparaiso or Nigeria or anywhere in the world. All these journeys starting on this little train, and he describes looking down into the docks and seeing these ships unloading these huge crates and thinking King Kong might be in any one of those crates. And that seemed like an amazingly romantic vision. And you can catch a little bit of that if you take the Northern Line with me in the Southport direction. So that's where we're going. We're heading up that way. But we're going to get off at Waterloo, where Debs lives. And because you're going to need to be recharged before you go on this bracing journey. I'm going to get you off at Waterloo. We're going to walk you through to St. John's Road, because what we've just described is the ruins of an empire. And on St. John's Road, you'll find those little tiny little things that are starting to grow in the ruins that make the ruins lovely. So there is Crosby Coffee, which is a big coffee roasting house where the coffee is phenomenally good, and Kaz's Cakes, which is a little bakery which uses lots of little produce and stuff for development. And I'm going to get you a little picnic from Kaz's Cakes, so we're going to load you up with Iron Man coffee from Crosby Coffee, and we're going to walk down to Beach Lawn. It's this beautiful boulevard of immense Victorian villas. Ishmael's houses there, these are just stunningly beautiful with amazing kind of wrought iron balconies and that, and you wouldn't know it was there if you didn't know it was there. And we're going to follow that around, and we're going to walk up towards the promenade, which is going to take you along the sea. We're going to walk along the sea, and you'll be able to see the great big super tankers and the big ferries coming in and the container ships coming in, and see this amazing thing, how narrow that sea lane is. And you'll see the Mersey pilots going back and forth, these guys who get the little boat out to Anglesey to take over, bringing these ships back in, because steering them is so difficult in that narrow lane. So whether you're the Queen Mary or a little Russian timber ship with a drunken captain, it doesn't matter. Some little scout is going to bring that in. We're going to walk along there, and you will come eventually to Crosby Beach, where you will see the Iron Men looking out to sea. And I want you to think about, what are they saying, those Iron Men? They've become part of us. They're an installation by Anthony Gormley, and they look different with every tide. They look different as time goes by. They've become red, and they've got barnacles growing on them. But they've also interacted with us more and more, especially this last year during lockdown. I think, in the end, art of any kind is just an invitation to be together. And the Iron Man is just enough of an invitation to say, come and stand on this beach together. And on European Cup final days, those Iron Men will have Liverpool shirts on, shirts on. Christmas, they've got bubble hats and baubles. People dress them up and own them. They become part of our story. But I want you to come a bit further. I want you to walk a little along further past where the Iron Men are, towards, on the footpath that goes through the dunes, towards Hightown. And on your left, you'll see something that, for years and years, I just thought was an eyesore. There's just these tons of rubble. It looks as though some giants have done a bit of fly tipping. There's just piles and piles of bricks and wrought iron and old fridges and huge chunks of stone. And what that is the rubble from the Blitz. So during the Blitz, Bootle lost 50% of its housing stock. All those bricks were hauled away and built and dumped here to create a sea defence and to create this beautiful promenade. This beautiful thing came out of that inferno. It was forged in this inferno. There's a young woman called Emma Marsh, who's at Newcastle University, who's just started to archaeologise that front. And because I knew that she was doing that, and because we were locked down, I started to look at that rubble. I used to avert my eyes from it, and now I start to look at it and I see what's in there. Bits of broken churches and parish halls and meeting houses and the story, the jumbled up story, this, as though the city was a kaleidoscope and these are the pieces that have fallen here. It's an amazing thing. And some of that rubble, by the way, wasn't all dumped here. Some of it went to New York to build a similar defence. And that harks back to that scheme of that idea that you could start a little journey at James Street and you could end on the other side of the world. This rubble went all over the world. But this rubble that stayed here is part of our story that was turned to this beautiful, beautiful use. And come further on. Come a little bit further on. Past Hightown, across the Alt, down which the Vikings came. And on the other side of the Alt, you'll find, at low tide, the remains of a petrified forest. And a little bit further on in that forest, footprints. These are Mesolithic and Neolithic footprints. Some of them are of adults, some of them are adult males, some of them are adult females, and some of them are of children in these little loose groups that wandered around in what was then marshland, hunter-gathering. And that's where our story starts. And I think about those footprints all the time because cities begin because of geography. Because here's this narrow sea lane that will bring you right inland. Here's this river Alt, which if you're a Viking is great because you can get way inland and start raiding and then get out again. And that's that sea lane that will take heavy ships right into a city centre. They start because of geography, but they grow because of love, and they grow because of dreams. And I think about those little Neolithic families wandering around, picking things up, and the line that connects me to them. And I think of them as Neolithic Scousers. And then come back with me past those Iron Men and ask yourself, what are they saying? And what are they saying is, you're welcome. What are they saying is, come in. And what are they saying is, we love you. And I'm just going to end by, because I've talked about the ruins and stuff like that, but I did say that, yeah, okay, so, and Bootle was there, then it wasn't there, and then it was on the prom, and it all got moved around. All the pieces get moved around. Cities ebb and flow like the tide. But what keeps them ebbing and flowing is that love, that imagination, that dream, that ambition for the city. I'm going to end with what G.K. Chesterton said. G.K. Chesterton said, people did not fight for Rome because Rome was great. People did not love Rome because Rome was great. Rome was great because people loved it. And that's where the city starts. There you go. Thank you.